The storm had raged through the night, leaving the little town of Willow Creek buried beneath a blanket of snow so deep it swallowed every sound. The streets were deserted, fences half covered, and the air so cold it felt like glass against the skin. But that morning, when the sky began to clear and the first weak rays of sunlight stretched across the fields, Evelyn Parker, a 76-year-old widow, stepped outside her small farmhouse at the edge of town with her old woolen shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders. She had no family left nearby, just her late husband Henry's memory, the warmth of her faith, and her daily routine of feeding stray animals that gathered by the back fence. As she trudged through the snow, she spotted something strange by the wooden fence near the open road. Two dark shapes slumped beside a motorcycle, their jackets frozen stiff and their breath barely visible. Her heart skipped. For a moment, she thought they might be gone. When she reached closer, the bold words on their jackets caught her trembling eyes: Hell's Angels. Big men, rough-looking, their faces cut and bruised, their hands swollen from the cold. Most people in town feared men like these, men on roaring bikes, covered in tattoos and leather. But Evelyn didn't see danger. She saw two souls on the edge of life. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because this story, this true reminder of what it means to be human, might just restore your faith in humanity. Evelyn dropped to her knees, the cold biting through her bones, and tried to shake one of them awake. His lips were blue, his eyes barely opening. The other stirred faintly, groaning in pain. Without thinking twice, she struggled to pull them both to their feet. "Come on, boys," she whispered, her voice trembling with effort. "Not today, not in my yard." One man, later she'd learn his name was Cole Matthews, tried to speak, but the words froze on his lips. The other, Ray Donovan, heavier and weaker, leaned hard against her tiny frame. Somehow, with every ounce of strength in her frail body, Evelyn dragged them across the snow and inside her home. The next few hours were a blur of survival. She stripped off their wet jackets, wrapped them in blankets, and set them by the fire. Their boots left muddy prints on her old rug, their gloves steamed as the ice melted off. She heated soup, rubbed their hands to bring back warmth, and prayed quietly under her breath. When Cole finally woke up, confusion clouded his bruised face. He looked around at the small, cozy house, the flickering firelight, the smell of homemade bread, the delicate porcelain teacups on the table. He couldn't believe it. A woman like her, fragile and gentle, had just saved two bikers who the world saw as dangerous outlaws. Why did you help us?" he finally whispered, voice rough from the cold. Evelyn just smiled softly and said, "Because someone once helped my Henry when no one else would. Kindness doesn't check jackets or faces, son. It just acts." Days passed, and word spread across town. People couldn't believe it. The old widow who lived alone had taken in two Hell's Angels riders. Some whispered that she was crazy. Others said she was naive. But Evelyn didn't care. She cooked for them, tended to their wounds, and even listened when Cole and Ray slowly began to share their stories, stories of lost families, broken pasts, and roads that led nowhere. They had been on their way to meet their crew when the storm hit, sliding off the road and crashing near her property. As the days turned into weeks, the rough bikers who once rode through towns with thunder in their engines began fixing fences, repairing her porch, and cutting firewood for her every morning. Ray, who rarely smiled, built a bird feeder in her yard. Cole, whose hands were scarred from fights and years on the road, started helping in the kitchen, learning how to bake bread from her. Evelyn would chuckle softly every time he burned his fingers or cursed under his breath, and he'd grin sheepishly like a boy caught stealing cookies. The whole town watched in disbelief. People who once crossed the street to avoid bikers now saw two men bowing their heads beside Evelyn during Sunday prayers. Slowly, others began to visit, to bring her groceries, to check on her, and they'd find the three of them laughing together like family. Evelyn had unknowingly healed not just 2 broken souls, but a whole community's fear and prejudice. Then came the morning when the snow finally melted, and the sound of engines echoed once again outside her gate. It was the rest of the Hells Angels crew, leather jackets, tattoos, and roaring bikes. They came to take their brothers home. Evelyn stepped out, her shawl fluttering in the wind, and the bikers fell silent. Cole hugged her tightly and whispered, "You gave us something no one ever did, a home, even if for a little while." She smiled, tears in her eyes, and said, "Promise me you'll carry that warmth wherever you ride." When they rode off into the horizon, the town stood by their fences watching, not with fear, but with quiet respect. The image of that old woman waving goodbye to the bikers became a story people told for years. A story about how kindness doesn't care who you are, it simply finds a way. A few months later, a rumble of engines returned to Willow Creek. But this time, it wasn't for trouble. The bikers came back, dozens of them, to fix the old chapel roof in Evelyn's honor. On her birthday, they brought flowers, groceries, and even built her a new wooden bench facing the road, the same spot where she had first found them. A plaque on it read, "To Evelyn Parker, the angel who found the Hells Angels." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share,